New York glitters like it can blind you into forgetting what hurts. I don't forget. Not the double shifts. Not the rent due yesterday. Not the sound of my mother's cough when the medicine runs out. My name is Lena Harper. I am 22. I carry a tray like it is armor and a smile like it pays overtime. Tonight I am working the private floor of Vale Tower, where the air smells like polished wood and quiet power. This is where billionaires celebrate victories and wash their hands in gold. The name on the tower is Elon Vale. Self-made. Precise. The room changes temperature when he enters it. I am not supposed to see men like him up close. I am supposed to refill their water and glide away. But the head waiter snaps. Harper Executive Suite, wipe everything twice. And I nod because the only thing poorer than the paycheck is the person who argues with it. The private office looks like a museum that decided to love only 3 colors: graphite, glass, and midnight. Mahogany desk. Crystal decanter. One wall of windows. Another wall of photographs. I put my tray down. I reach for the glass cleaner. And then I see it. A portrait the size of a door. 2 men shaking hands. One is Elon Vale, younger, still steel in the eyes. The other is a man with dark hair and a crooked smile I have not seen since I was 6. The wristwatch on his arm is the same one in a drawer at home. The smile is the one my mother keeps alive when she says, "He loved you more than the sun." I stop breathing. The rag slips in my hand. I take a step closer. It is not a look-alike. It is not a trick of light. It is my father, David Harper, standing beside the richest man in the room, framed like a trophy. My father did not work in towers. He died in a factory fire on a night the city forgot to care. The door opens behind me. Footsteps. Laughter. A voice that walks through rooms like it owns them. Elon Vale enters mid-conversation with a trio of investors. His presence is a quiet storm. He stops when he sees me standing too close to the portrait. The room pauses like someone pressed mute. My lips move before the part of me that likes having a job can stop them. "Sir," I say, and my voice shakes. "Why is my father in your office?" Forks halt midair. Glasses hover. The investors look from him to me like they want to believe I am a joke the night planned. Elon's face shifts. Not anger first, but something paler. Recognition. Regret. Fear. "What did you say?" he asks softly like he is testing a floor. "My father," I repeat. "David Harper. Why is he in your picture?" He blinks once. The control returns like a tide. He smiles for the guests, a thin, polite line, and says, "We will reconvene upstairs." 5 minutes. It is not a request. They retreat, grateful to obey. The door closes. The room exhales. The billionaire and the waitress are alone. "You're not authorized to be in this room," he says. The tone is low. The jaw is set. The eyes do not match either. "Who let you in?" "I was told to clean it." And I did. I point to the portrait because survival is a smaller animal than truth, and it fails me now. That is my father. He studies me the way a surgeon studies a shadow on an X-ray. There must be some mistake. My father died in a factory fire when I was 6, I say. He did not wear suits. He did not come to towers. David Harper was a contractor I worked with many years ago. He says, too quickly, and for a breath the armor slips. It is not anger I see. It is the face of a man remembering a night he never forgave himself for. "You knew him," I whisper. "Tell me the truth." He closes the distance to his desk like the surface can hold him up. His hand presses flat to the wood, knuckles pale. "You should not throw accusations around in rooms like this," he says. The voice is softer. The words are harder. "Do you understand who you are speaking to?" "I am speaking to the man who keeps a picture of my dead father on his wall," I answer, because fear has never paid my light bill, and grief is a rope you either climb or hang from. "You knew him. Tell me why." He looks at the portrait. He looks at me. The silence is a pane of glass between us. Then, in a voice that belongs in confession, not in a boardroom, "I knew David. He sits. Not because he is tired, because history has weight. He was brilliant," Elon says. "He was my closest collaborator. He was my friend. He swallows and the word friend tastes like ash. And then there was a fire. My mother said accident, I say. The sentence shivers. She said no one listened. Your mother. He begins and stops himself like the next words could undo us both. He straightens, folds the softness back into the suit, and tries the next door. This is not a conversation for tonight. I will make sure you are compensated for this misunderstanding. I don't want your money, I say, and it is the truest thing I have said in years. I want the truth. His mask finally cracks. The man in the mirror looks human. You don't want the truth, he says quietly. The truth can destroy you. Destroy me, I ask, or you? For a heartbeat, the richest man in the room looks like a boy caught in a lie the sky overheard. He turns his face to the city, to the glass that pretends to be safety, and says one word a powerful man rarely uses. Please. Then, leave. I look at the portrait one last time. At my father's smile, alive in a frame where he should not exist. I back toward the door. I do not thank him. I do not apologize. I leave with my tray and my shaking hands and the feeling that something very old just woke up. Outside, the hallway hums with the expensive kind of quiet. In the elevator, my reflection looks like someone the rain forgot to forgive. On the street, the night is wet and the lights smear. On the bus home, the city blurs into a river of gold and gray. And every time I blink I see Elon's face when I said my father's name. He knew. At home, the oxygen machine breathes for the room. My mother, Evelyn Harper, sleeps in the soft, shallow way illness teaches you. I kneel. I tuck the blanket higher. I listen to her breathe and think of a drawer with a wristwatch in it, and a portrait in a tower where my father's ghost learned a new trick. How to stand beside a billionaire. I do not sleep. I open the drawer and hold the watch to the lamplight. The same nick on the bezel. The same story in the metal, the one my mother could barely tell without breaking. In the morning, I will ask her the questions I was too young to carry and she was too tired to answer. On the street below, a car idles longer than cars should. The engine is a low throat. The windows are a mirror. Somewhere inside Vale Tower, a man sits alone in a room with a portrait that refuses to be quiet and says to no one, "You should have stayed buried, David." But the dead are louder than the rich know. They keep receipts. They wait for rain. They send their daughters to wipe glass until truth reflects itself. I did not go looking for a billionaire. I went looking for my father. And tonight the door opened. Morning slipped in like it had been listening all night. The oxygen machine hummed beside the couch. My mother's hands lay folded over the blanket, thin and steady in sleep. Dear. Evelyn Harper had taught other people how to breathe for years. Then the world taught her how not to. I made tea the way she likes it. 3 minutes. Honey like a quiet apology. When the cup touched the coaster, her eyes opened. Gentle, aware, and already reading my face. You did not sleep, she said. I saw Dad, I answered, and the words were a stone dropping through us both. In a picture. In Elon Vale's office. Her hands tightened in the blanket. Color left her face the way light leaves a room when a storm arrives. Why were you in his office? I was cleaning, I said. Then I was not. Silence held us. Not empty. Crowded with years. She pushed herself up slowly. The blanket slipped. Her shoulders looked like they had learned to carry too much. Show me the watch, she said. I opened the drawer and placed it in her palm. She held the metal like a memory that still had a pulse. Your father wore this every day, she whispered. He said time behaves better when you look it in the eye. Did he work for Vale? I asked. Not rumors. Not what we said to sleep. The truth. She closed her eyes for a long breath. When she opened them, they were the color of the river when it refuses to lie. They were partners once, she said. Your father and Elon. They built something in a rented lab with walls that remembered laughter. It had a name Phoenix, I think, clean energy, no patents, no gatekeepers. It was supposed to belong to the world. My heartbeat moved higher in my throat. And the fire? Her hands trembled. She reached for the small wooden box on the shelf, the one she never let me dust. The tape was old, the lid side when it opened. Inside lay photographs and a thin envelope, yellowed at the edges. She placed a photo in my hand. My father, young and bright, shoulder to shoulder with Elon Vale, both of them grinning like a sunrise. I could not reconcile the image with the obituary in our drawer. One said friend. The other said accident. Your father discovered a change in the plan, she said softly. Licenses, contracts, a private buyer. He said the language had shifted from open to own. He wanted to go to the press. He believed Elon would tell the truth because truth is what you say to people you love. He went to the lab that night to collect proof. And he did not come home, I finished for her, because I was 6 again. She slid the envelope toward me. Letters. Copies of notes. A clinic receipt with a signature you already know. She swallowed. I burned the rest. I thought fire could stop fire. I was wrong. I stared at the paper. My father's handwriting leaned forward like a man mid-sentence. The last page was smudged with something that could have been ash or grief. In the margin a single line, if they bury this, dig it up. Why did you never tell me? I asked, and I hated the way my voice sounded. Small. Betrayed. Because Elon Vale called me, she whispered, and the sound of his name in her mouth hurt. Because he said your father had caused the fire. Because he said it would be safer if I forgot him. Because he offered money for the funeral and I said a sentence I had to live with. I said keep it. Keep it and keep away from us. And he did. Until now. The kettle clicked again. A soft apology that arrived too late. We sat with the envelope between us like a room neither of us could afford to enter. What are you going to do? My mother asked. Ask him why, I said. The answer surprised me. It did not ask for permission. It did not ask for safety. It asked for truth. Her hand reached for mine. Warm, thin, insistent. Lena, listen to me. Men like Elon do not plan their lives around our questions. If he hid your father, he will not let you carry him into the light without a fight. Do not go. I cannot stand by, I said. Not now. Not after seeing it with my own eyes. She closed her eyes the way a person closes a door gently so it will not break. Then take the watch. Take the letters. Take the part of my courage I still have. A sound outside pulled the air tight. An engine idle. A door thud. Knuckles on wood. I moved to the peephole. A man in a black coat stood in the hallway, rain shouldering itself off his hat. He was not a threat in posture. He was a message. I opened the door partway. Yes. Miss Harper, he said. Polite. Crisp. Mr. Vale requests your presence this morning. Transportation is waiting. My mother's voice came from the couch, thin and sharp. No. The man's eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me. It is urgent. Urgent is the word people use when they want your fear to stand up and agree. I looked at my mother. At the envelope. At the watch. At the life I had tried to hold together with schedules and apologies. I am coming, I said. The car was a quiet machine. City lights pressed to the windows like stars that forgot their lines. The driver did not speak. I counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. I tried to slow the tremor in my hands. It would not listen. Vale Tower rose ahead like a spine. In the lobby, security scanned me with the kind of courtesy money buys. No one asked my name. They already knew it. An elevator moved like a decision. The doors opened on the top floor into a world where carpet swallows footsteps and glass tells you what power sees. Elon Vale stood at the window as if he needed the city to anchor him. Light caught in his hair like an old storm. He did not turn when I entered. I was not sure you would come, he said. You did not give me a choice, I answered. He faced me. The armor was on, but not all the way. The edges showed the man underneath. You look like him, he said, and it was not a line. It was a wound. Do not talk about my father as if you lost him, I said. You did not lose him. You buried him. His throat worked. He gestured to a chair I could not sit in. There are things you do not understand. Then make me understand. For a long moment he said nothing. He crossed to the desk, opened a drawer, and placed something between us. A photograph. The same portrait, smaller. David and Elon, young and bright and unaware of what ambition would do to their faces. We were building a future, he said softly. And when the future costs more than the people in it, that is when men like me make the worst choices. Say his name, I said. Say what you did to him. His jaw set. Your father threatened to leak proprietary research. He would have destroyed the company. He would have ruined everyone who depended on it. So you ruined him instead, I said. Do you hear yourself? He flinched. You think this is simple. It was not. His voice lowered until it could hide nowhere. I was afraid. I told myself I was protecting what we had built. That principles could wait and people could not. I told myself a sentence I have been unlearning ever since. I told myself I was right. And the fire? I asked. The words tasted like metal. He died. In a room with your name on it. I did not light it, he said. I will swear that until whatever end I deserve. But I knew it would burn. I knew enough to stop it. And I did not. It was not the confession I expected. It was not enough. It was also a door I could feel opening inside him the way truth opens, slow, grinding, expensive. A soft tone sounded at the door. He ignored it. The second tone carried more insistence. He glanced toward the panel, then back to me. Please, he said. Do not do anything reckless. You do not know who will pay. I have been paying for years, I said. So has she. I lifted the envelope. His eyes tracked it. Remorse moved through his face like weather. I will tell you what I can, he said. But not here. Not today. There are people who will bury you for touching this. Let me move the ground first. You had 20 years to move it, I answered. It is my turn. He looked past me, as if the wall could teach him how to hold himself together. You are your father's daughter, he said, almost like a blessing. And that will be your undoing. I will take that risk. He stepped closer. Not a threat. A plea. If you plan to take this public. Not plan, I said. Promise. The door opened on a man from security whose face said emergency, and whose voice said he wanted to keep his job. Sir. The press is circling the building. A rumor is trending. They are asking if Northbridge Energy is reviving a legacy project named Phoenix. I did not move. Elon did not swear. He did not speak for a full 2 seconds. Then he said, push the meeting with legal. Tell comms I want evidence, not adjectives. He nodded toward me. Send Miss Harper down through service. No cameras. The guard hesitated. I shook my head. I'll walk out the front, I said. Lena, Elon said. My name in his mouth like he had earned the right to use it. Please. It is my face, I answered. It is my father. It is my life. We stood a breath apart, both of us stubborn, both of us wrong in different ways. He exhaled. He stepped back. He said, if you will not let me protect you, at least let me help you carry this. How? By not lying anymore, he said, and the room got quiet in a way that made me believe him. I left with the envelope, the watch, and a new sentence that did not like where it had to live. I do not know the whole story. The lobby's shine did not hide the eyes. Heads turned. Phones rose like a crop. I kept my shoulders square. Outside, rain rehearsed on the city. A black sedan idled across the street. The window lowered an inch. Then more. No one I recognized sat inside. A man lifted his phone and pretended it was nothing. My skin knew better. I walked. 2 blocks. 3. The car rolled along in the slow, patient way of something that can afford to wait. On the 4th block, a bus arrived as if the universe decided to be kind on purpose. Climbed on. I did not look back. At home, my mother was sitting up, hands on her knees like prayer. I showed her the empty spaces in the sentences I had brought back. I told her what Elon did not say. The oxygen machine kept the rhythm when I could not. That night, I hid the letters in a place grief would not think to search. I put the watch under my pillow. I left the lamp on. I told myself I would not look at the window. I looked anyway. The car was gone. What remained was heavier. A quiet that felt like someone listening. I thought pain would be the sharp thing. The shard. The cut. Turned out to be the weight. The knowing that the next knock would rearrange our walls. The knowing that truth is a season that does not ask what you plan to wear. Before sleep finally found me, I wrote a sentence in my notebook so I would not forget it in the morning. Return what was stolen. Keep what cannot be bought. Outside, the city exhaled. Somewhere uptown, a man in a glass room stared at a portrait until the person next to him began to speak again. Down the block, a woman I love practiced breathing like a future. Between those rooms, a car I did not trust learned my street. I did not ask for war. But I knew this much now. It had already started. Morning arrived like a soft verdict. Not mercy. Not punishment. Just a chance. I walked back into Vale Tower with the envelope under my arm, and my mother's watch warm against my wrist. The marble lobby glowed with that expensive calm that never makes room for people like me. Yet the first face I saw was not a stranger. It was Elijah, the security officer with steady eyes and a kind voice that made rules sound human. "Good morning, Miss Harper," he said. "You are expected." Expected. A word I had not worn in years. It fit awkwardly, then better with each step. Upstairs, Elon Vale waited in a conference room with glass on 3 sides and sky on the 4th. He looked like a man who had slept near his regrets and woken up anyway. "I cannot rewrite the past," he said. "But I can stop lying to it. If you are willing, I want to close. Not as a favor. As work." "What kind?" I asked. "Observation," he answered. "Translation. Tell me what power misses. Tell me where our story breaks and where it can be repaired. You will have the access you need. You will have the keys to rooms I used to hide." I thought of my mother's hands. Of the watch. Of the photo. I thought of the men idling in a dark sedan. Fear tried to bargain. Pride tried to bargain. Hope did not. It simply waited. "All right," I said. "On one condition." His jaw lifted. "Name it." "You do not use me to bury the truth," I said. "You use me to unearth it. No press tricks. No sweetened statements. Proof or silence." He nodded. It was not theatrical. It was real. Deal. That is how my badge lit green at doors that used to blink red. My name appeared in calendars where names like mine do not belong. My world shifted from the service entrance to the rooms where futures are priced, weighed, and sometimes lost. I started with small things. Because small things are where big lies trip. I sat in the lobby for an hour and watched body language get mistaken for threat. Backpacks judged like confessions. Smiles judged like currency. I wrote down what I saw, not what I assumed. Names. Times. Patterns. I stood in the line at the cafe and watched who bought 2 coffees and who pretended not to see the second empty cup. I learned the night crew's names before I learned the vice president's. Mara Lewis at the front desk who remembers birthdays without a list. Elijah who tilts the scanner away so it does not glare into faces. Marta in facilities who can fix a sulking elevator with a wrench and a memory from 15 years ago. At noon I sat with Priya Das, a data analyst with careful eyes and a mind that counts what people forget to value. She opened the system no one sees and showed me where time is lost without anyone noticing. "Look," she said, tapping the screen. "Approval loops. Duplicate steps. 5 minutes here. 9 minutes there. It does not seem like theft until you add it up." "How many hours a week?" I asked. She did not answer with a guess. She answered with a number she had earned. 41, she said. On paper. Probably more in hearts. I brought our notes to Elon. He read them the way a person studies a compass after getting lost in a storm. Slowly. Twice. "This is not a report," he said. "No," I answered. "It is a mirror." He did not call a press conference. He called facilities, HR, and security. No cameras. No speeches. Just work. We piloted 3 changes in 3 quiet corners of the tower. 1. Safe leave 1 page. If you need to leave now for your safety or someone you love, you go. No interrogations in the moment. No forms designed to shame you for breathing. We will handle the paperwork when the fear has a chair to sit in. 2. Grace bands at the turnstiles. 5 minutes every morning. No loud beeps. No red glare. Just a green light that says, "We live in a city where trains cough and buses lie. You are not a suspect because you are human." 3. The Stars Fund. $200 per shift lead. No more than a paragraph for what it's for. Sneakers with stars for a child. A taxi home at midnight when buses sleep. A bridge between almost and enough. Finance called them soft costs. I called them breathing costs. After 1 month, absenteeism fell. Escalations dropped. People arrived without flinching. Priya ran the numbers. Elon ran his hand across the table and did not speak for 10 seconds, the corporate version of shock. Expand, he said. Quietly. We are not buying applause. He began to pull me into rooms where ambition wears perfume. He did not give me a speech to recite. He gave me space to listen. In negotiations, I watched words become weapons and then, with the smallest turn, become bridges. He spoke fluent outcome. I learned to translate it into worth. He said, delivery schedule. I said, the week your engineers see their kids on time. He said, liability. I said, the day your nurse does not have to say I am sorry twice. A new habit took root. Before any meeting, Elon wrote 2 lines in the margin of his notes. Outcome, what we need to happen. Worth, what it must feel like for them. It sounds soft. It behaves like steel. We also did something brave in a building like this. We wrote down a rule we could be held to. Evidence before adjectives. If we say we are ethical, we publish the receipts. If we say we are careful, we show you where the near misses lie and how we fixed them. If we fail, we say it in a voice that does not hide behind polish. He brought in legal and audit and told them something I had never heard a man like him say out loud. I have used you as shields. I need you as lanterns. He was not performing. He was repenting in a language a company understands. On the 20th floor, we installed a small sign above a pair of chairs angled toward each other, not toward a screen. The sign read, use me to rescue a conversation from your inbox. If it's about them, say their name first. If it's about trust, put numbers and faces on the same page. Employees laughed. Then they used it. Arguments shortened. Respect grew new muscles. Not everything we tried worked. We wrote a generous parental leave policy in a tone that felt like a lecture. Feedback was honest. We rewrote it in human, not legal. We placed it next to a phone line that rings to a person, not a maze. The second draft breathed. Elon watched these tiny reforms like a patient watches their own heartbeat. Curious. Cautious. Hopeful in ways he did not let the room see. After a week of pilots on 2 floors, he came down to the lobby at shift change. No entourage. No photographers. He stood by the turnstiles and told Elijah a quiet thank you for tilting the scanner light. Elijah nodded. It's a small angle, he said. Small angles change flight paths. The rumors did not stop. The dark sedan still learned my street. My mother's breathing still needed a machine. But something else began to breathe too. I met Nurse Amar at a free clinic 3 blocks over and asked her what a Dignity First health intake would look like if we built one. She smiled the tired smile of a woman who cares for a living and told me exactly. Simple forms at a 4th grade reading level. A waiting room where television is a choice, not a punishment. A warm handoff, not a phone number that dies in a pocket. That evening I sat across from Elon with a napkin covered in sketches. Floor plans. A list titled Mercy That Scales. He listened the way he studies a map. His eyes moved from the napkin to my face. Harper, he said. Let's try it. Not as charity. As infrastructure. We named it Open Care and promised ourselves we would keep it small until we could keep it honest. No photo ops. 1 room. 1 van. A sign on the wall. No one owes for mercy received. Your name stays yours. Your choices travel with you. The first night, a man in a delivery uniform came in holding his ribs like a secret. He left with a diagnosis and a next-day appointment instead of a guess and a prayer. A barista arrived with a chest tight enough to make sound hurt and left with an inhaler and a number that answers on Sundays. I stood in the doorway and watched the quiet of relief land on faces that rarely get to keep it. I went home and wrote in my notebook, hope is not fireworks. Hope is a chair in the right place. And a door you do not have to ask to open. On the day we installed the signals board. A whiteboard in a shared hallway where anyone could put a tally under the problem that kept stealing their day. Elon came down himself. He read each line. Escalations with no owner. Autolocks that punish night shift. Managers who forget names after yes. He picked up a pen and drew a box around the words interrupted hours. "What does it cost us to fix these?" he asked. I answered with what I had learned to bring. "Evidence. Less than the morale you lose by not fixing them," I said. "And less than the talent you never meet because your door is too heavy." He smiled, brief, unguarded, grateful. Not to be admired. To be useful. So we kept building the bridge. One policy that fits in a mouth. One sign that makes a room kinder. One rule that refuses to exhaust the people it claims to protect. We did not call it transformation. We called it practice. That night, as the lights across the river turned the water into a second sky, Elon walked me to the elevator and stood with his hands in his pockets like a man learning how not to command the air. "I cannot fix what I failed," he said. "But if I have any power left, I will spend it making rooms where people like your father do not have to risk burning to tell the truth." I watched the floor numbers count down. 1, 2, 3. "Then let's spend it," I said. Outside, the sedan was gone. The street felt like it belonged to the people walking on it, not to the rumor hiding under it. I imagined bringing my mother here in spring, when trees pretend not to be tired. I imagined a bench with a small plaque and a single sentence. "For those who listen before they judge." It was too early to call this peace. Too soon to call it safe. But for the first time in years, I carried home more than fear. I carried a key. I carried a plan. I carried a name that did not feel like a weight. Hope had found a door. Our work was to make it a bridge. Justice did not arrive with sirens. It arrived with a whisper that tried to sound like truth. It started on a Tuesday. A blog nobody loved posted a grainy photo of me in Elon Vale near the lobby coffee stand. The caption called me a plant. Another post stitched it into a rumor. A third added teeth. By noon, my phone burned with strangers who thought speed was a virtue and doubt was a sport. Inside Vale Tower, the air changed pressure. A few executives called it optics. One email said mitigate exposure like I was a spill to mop. I felt the old instinct to disappear, to make myself smaller than the lie. Instead, I left a single page on Elon's desk. Bring proof. Or bring silence. He did not call PR. He called IT legal and the CISO. "No adjectives," he said softly. "Only logs, timestamps, chain of custody. We move at the pace of evidence, not outrage." The room obeyed. By morning, the trail was mapped. A burner account. A co-working space rented by the hour. Messages harvested from a junior project coordinator, 23, rent fragile, who had been flattered by a private equity scout promising a title taller than truth. She had not sold secrets. She had slid. A screenshot here. A calendar cropped there. A sentence that read, "CEO's pet, chaos inside." HR followed policy. Security followed procedure. And Elon did something I'd never seen a man with his power do. He went to her desk himself. He asked the team for 5 minutes of grace. He sat. No cameras. No theater. He let dignity stay in the room while consequence did its work. Then he stood in front of a single lens and said 10 steady words. "We do not trade facts for rumor or convenience." No flourishes. He published a timeline when we learned how we traced what we changed. Not names. Not shaming. Process as a lantern, not a match. The stock twitched and then remembered math. The internet moved on to a louder storm. Inside the tower, something heavier stayed. A new rule with a spine. Evidence before headlines. Receipts before adjectives. If it matters, we show our work. Justice did not stop at PR. It walked into the counting rooms. Priya Das and I brought Richard Valen from finance a sheet no one had asked for. We called it interrupted hours. Time employees lost to controls that protected no one and punished everyone. Duplicated approvals. Escalations with no owner. Compliance pop-ups that bragged about the worst possible timing. 41 hours a week reclaimed when fixed. Richard stared at the cell and went quiet for 10 seconds. The fiscal version of confession. We wrote a governing line and made it public. If a control interrupts more work than it protects, fix the control, not the person. Audit nodded. Quietly grateful. Justice also went outside our glass. Rumors had begun to circle one of our overseas suppliers, training centers, that looked like factories with better press releases. Elon did not ask for a glossy assurance. He asked for translators chosen by the workers, not by management. We flew Luz, Dow, and Armin, community interpreters with spines of steel and notebooks full of names. They interviewed in break rooms that smelled like garlic and steam, in shuttle vans at dawn, under stairwells where truth hides when it is scared. Their report did not read like marketing. It read like work. What we saw. What it cost. What we will change. By when. Who is responsible? We ended 2 contracts. We funded 3 fixes. We published the receipts in both languages. No victory lap. Just a signature line that said, "This is what accountability looks like on paper." Back home, we formalized all the small doors we had been unjamming. Grace bands at the turnstiles became policy. Safe leave 1 page became policy. Stars Fund became a budget line, not a favor. We added a metric that analysts tried to laugh at until it refused to break. Kept promises. Of the commitments we made to people this quarter, how many did we keep on time in full without making anyone beg? It sounds soft. It behaves like steel. It correlated with retention, safety, cycle time, and, much to Richard's surprise, profit. Justice also walked into rooms that used to ignore me. The board met with eyes that measured markets and learned to measure breath. Elon did not perform repentance. He operationalized it. He showed them the leak timeline and the remediation playbook. The supplier audit with worker-chosen translators. The cost of interrupted hours and the return on fixed controls. The open care pilot. Visits prevented, crises diverted, employees stabilized. You cannot put a multiple on relief, one director muttered. Then stop pretending fear is free, Elon answered, calm as cold water. They voted to expand the pilots. Not because the room grew kinder. Because the math did. The last piece of justice was the part one feared most. Facing what my mother taught me to name out loud, harm that hides in paperwork. We built a dignity ledger inside Open Care. A log of small rules bent for mercy and the reasons why. Once a month we reviewed it and rewrote the rule instead of punishing the bending. A bathroom key on a chain became a door that opened. A voucher that died at 6 p.m. became one that breathed at midnight. A form that demanded a middle name learned some cultures don't use one. When we made those changes public, something unusual happened. Complaints fell. Not because people stopped hurting. Because they started being heard before hurt turned into rage. I wish I could say the city applauded. Mostly it blinked. Justice is boring when it works. It looks like fewer alarms. It looks like a night crew cart that rolls instead of squeals. It looks like Elijah tilting the scanner so it stops scolding. It looks like Mara Lewis at the front desk saying a name the way a person likes to hear it and watching their shoulders drop 1 inch. On a Thursday, the CFO sent a note with the subject I never thought I'd see: recommendation, expand kept promises and open care. No exclamation point. Just numbers that lined up like geese and a sentence at the bottom. Turns out trust is cheaper than churn. I printed it and slid it into my notebook under a different sentence. The one I wrote the day the rumor tried to make a home in my ribcage. Bring proof. Or bring silence. That night, I walked past the river to the bench we had talked about. The plaque was not there yet, but I could feel the sentence humming under the wood. For those who listen before they judge. My phone buzzed. A message from Priya. A chart with a curve bending the right way. Another from Nurse Amara. A photo of a child holding a sticker that read "Brave today." Then a single line from Elon. Publish the audit. All of it. Let the light do its work. Justice is not a gavel. It is a door held open long enough for truth to walk through. We held it. And the building learned how to breathe without lying to itself. Happiness kept arriving in small proofs. By the second week, our listening lab had a wall of quiet victories. A cleaner's stool appeared with her name on it. A line in our software moved an error message to the top. New hires stopped failing a form they never had a chance to pass. We tracked each fix with a single sentence on a yellow card. What we changed. What it saved. 17 seconds off each login. 3 minutes off a patient intake. 1 hour back to a parent's Thursday. We rewired the intake at Open Care with a short pencil and a calm room. We reduced 12 steps to 4, then to 3. Name need next. Priya timed the whole journey. Triage wait fell by 23 minutes. Paperwork did not vanish. It learned to be the size of a breath. At the night market health pop-up, steam rose like a blessing. Dow stood under a string of lights and poured soup for a woman who came from the late shift. We wrote answers on a board titled Homework Returned. Immunization schedules. Bus stops at midnight. A landlord's form translated without fear in the room. Attendance doubled the next week. We kept it weekly, then bi-weekly, then permanent. We did not announce it. We just kept showing up. Luz finished the glossary of dignity and taped it where supervisors actually stand. Why are you late? Became what help would make this easier. Explain became tell me in your words. We added a third line for ourselves. If you do not know, ask. HR printed the booklet. Facilities laminated it. Security memorized it. Armin sent more notes that felt like wisdom in small packets. If you deliver chargers, add labels. Names keep items from becoming fights. If you deliver lamps, add a spare bulb. Hope should not flicker on a Tuesday. We did both. Photos came back at midnight. 5 lamps on a windowsill. A happy mess of cords with names. A grandmother laughing as her phone lit up like morning. Inside the tower, kept promises moved from a metric to a habit. At 3 o'clock on Thursdays, a thank you round began on the top floor. A vice president carried blank cards down each hallway and returned with none. 3 sentences only. What I saw. Why it mattered. What it changed. We placed the cards on a cork board by the elevator. People stopped to read. You could feel the room take a longer breath. We added meeting nutrition labels to every invite. Purpose. Who decides? Who can leave after 10 minutes without penalty? The 10-minute line was a revolution no one expected. Assistants left early. Engineers returned to building. Nurses returned to care. No one was scolded for choosing usefulness. We retired 3 vanity metrics with a small ceremony that involved a Sharpie and a recycle bin. No more charts that only applauded themselves. We replaced them with 3 stubborn truths. Kept promises. Minutes returned. Quiet escalations resolved. Finance stopped smiling politely and started partnering. Richard's email shrank in adjectives and grew in proof. Recommend expansion, he wrote. Then added a period that felt like a vow. At the clinics, we built a children's corner with second-hand books and a rug that felt like dawn. I watched a child trace letters with her finger and whisper the word home. Nurse Amara drew a smile on a bandage and said, brave with scientist precision. A father leaned in the doorway and pretended not to cry. I wrote closer in my notebook. Because joy is distance reduced without anyone losing themselves on the way. We created on-shift snack credits for anyone who missed lunch and quiet hours in waiting rooms for people whose nerves were already loud. We added clear path floor decals that literally mapped the fastest way through paperwork. People did not get smarter. Rooms got kinder. It looked like intelligence from the outside. It was simply respect. On Sundays, the pancakes improved. The first batch had been more apology than food. By the 4th week, they tasted like a promise we were now keeping. The plant on my window kept refusing to die. Elon would hold it up and grin. Still alive. I kept a small watering can by the sink like a low-tech prayer. He still took meetings at 30,000 feet. He still made decisions only he could make. But he landed more often. He stood in clinic lines. He wrote 3-line thank yous by hand. When reporters asked for the secret, he did not say my name. He said the quiet sentence that built our year. Attention is the scarcest resource. Spend it where it multiplies. Then he did the proof. He listened. I visited the bench by the river when days were too full. The plaque caught the light like it belonged to everyone. For those who listen before they judge. Elijah left another folded verse under the armrest. Mercy is a ledger that pays on time. He pretended he did not write it. I pretended not to know. We opened Clinic 6 in a neighborhood maps call underserved. A word that hides more than it reveals. Neighbors arrived with tamales and jasmine tea and stories that did not need subtitles. We added a sign that said, "What time does your day need you back?" Changed everything. Appointments learned to be humble. Schedules learned to bend without breaking. Second shift began as an experiment in a borrowed classroom. A dishwasher taught circuits on Tuesdays. A nanny started a daycare with hours that matched real life. A line cook who could do calculus in his head tutored teenagers who looked at him and saw a future that spoke their language. We hung one sentence on the wall. We believe there is no such thing as unskilled. You could feel the room stand up a little taller. At home, my mother's breath evened out. We added a small frame on the shelf, David Harper and Elon in a photo from a world that still thought the future would be kind by default. I could look at it now without shaking. Forgiveness is work, not a headline. It arrives on small feet. It sits quietly and asks, "What can I carry?" One evening we found a small box on the kitchen table. Thin silver ring. One word inside, freedom. "I will never buy your time," he said. "I will ask to share your life." I said yes. Not to rescue. To recognition. We kept Tuesdays for the listening lab and Thursdays for field rounds. We taught leaders to keep 3 sentences ready for hard moments. "You're right. You're safe. Here's what we do next." Happiness did not arrive with trumpets. It learned our names. It measured itself in doors that no longer stick, in forms that no longer scold, in promises that do not require begging to stay kept. People still try to shrink our story to something that fits on a phone. Billionaire and poor girl. Wallet and rain. They missed the point on purpose. Power is measured in promises kept. Dignity is measured in minutes returned. Love is measured in the small work you keep doing when the room is tired. If your night feels large, hear me. You are not finished. Return what is not yours. Keep what is. Ask for a chair. Pull another beside it. Measure your day by one question. What did I keep? You will be surprised how much happiness fits inside that answer. Not the ending. Just the part where the room breathes together. 6 clinics. 2 vans. A bench with a quiet vow. A ring that says freedom. A life you can keep, one kept promise at a time. The city tested us on a Thursday. The grid exhaled. The skyline fell quiet. At Site 3 lights blinked, then dusk. Backups hummed. Night protocol opened like a steady hand. We propped doors. Turned off music. Called Olive and Star. Carry power. Carry light. Vans unfurled orange cords like gentle snakes. Phones charged under a sign. Call your person. No questions asked. Veil Tower held, but Elon came to Site 3. Command lives where people are. Priya unfolded a portable dashboard. Starred buildings with stuck elevators. Flagged meds that couldn't wait. A handwritten triage list. The list that doesn't panic. Richard arrived. What do you need me to count? Minutes. He counted returns. Phone charge time. Neb refills, fear settling. Later, he published minutes returned. We posted a sheet in 3 languages. Tell us what hurts. Who to call. What can't wait. Translators anchored the room. Soup tape names on chargers. Not trending, essential. Elijah radioed. Lobby stable. For folks think the clinic is for employees only. It's for the city, I said. They came. A deli owner with a joke. A driver who'd been outside too long. A quiet man who guarded cords like a river. I scanned for the wrong color. A woman sat too straight. I need to leave, she whispered. And know I can come back. Safe leave lived for that 1-page quiet car promise. Policy becomes a hand on a door. The hospital called, overflowing. Do you have room? No. We have chairs. Warm handoff, 3 facts, 1 person named now. It worked. Midnight, the internet woke with wrong info. Priya shut it down with, we are open. Where? When? What we have. No adjectives. A girl stood on the scale. A spaceship. We counted down. She landed. The room laughed. At 1, Richard muttered, "Kept promises is trending." On Slack, whiteboards, text threads. The floor held. At 2, Vans recharged. We swapped chords like a dance. Our wall list. People we owe by sunrise. No ticket closed with a human still attached. A man with a cooler. Insulin. It's warm. Our fridge became a chapel. We labeled vials like letters from far away. He breathed. Elon moved like a conductor who knows when to lower his hands. 10 calls, no belittling. Tea for a grandmother. No internet post. Dawn tiptoed. Buildings blinked. A small cheer. We logged the night. Minutes returned. Quiet escalations. Helpfulness index with 5 faces and 1 question. Did someone make your day easier? By noon, Richard's board note. Cost of kept promises in a blackout. 1 chart. 1 recommendation. Make night protocol standard. They voted yes. Sometimes miracles are people who stop arguing with reality. At the bench, we passed, Elon said. We learned, I said. What do we build next? Night protocol for neighbors, open source paper soup. We published a kit any block can run. Later, a Southside storm. The kits came out. We weren't there. That was the point. Legacy isn't marble. It's a laminated page and a van that hums like a lullaby. A metric on a whiteboard that refuses to lie. Kept promises. Sunday pancakes. The plant refuses to die. Elijah tilts the scanner. Priya sends a curve. Amara writes brave today. Elon turns the ring so freedom faces up. When lights go out and they will, we open doors, roll chords, count minutes, listen. Then return to the small work that holds. Justice didn't arrive with sirens. It knocked at noon, asked for water, opened a notebook. An innovation partner pitched a growth deal. Pretty deck, generous numbers, impossible timeline. Too clean, Priya said. Dust under decimals. We set the table. Finance, legal, security, procurement, ops me. We want growth, Richard said. Not headlines we can't outlive. We call translators investigators, not accessories. Lose Dow Armin. 1 rule. Worker-chosen interviews on paid time. Right to say not today. Site 1, bleach in fear. Family above fines. Lose heard. Reminders taste like salt. Dow found a dorm with cameras pointed at beds. Armin saw overtime spikes start with rain, not orders. The fix wasn't a timesheet. It was wheels. Our report, what we saw. What must change? Who pays when late? Verdict. Fails our dignity threshold. We walk, Richard said. We disclose, I added. Elon. Absorb the hit. Tell the street. We published 5 receipts, 0 adjectives. The rival CEO went on TV calling violations isolated. Motivation is a jacket, I said later. It should warm, not choke. We built the auditor's circle, worker-nominated monitors, rotating, paid, unannounced rounds. Payment tied to change, not promises. Vendor onboarding got a bench test. Does policy survive a bad day? Can a worker refuse and keep their job? Show 3 times you chose people over deadlines. Give us former employees' numbers. We tested our house. A whisper. A junior manager pressuring temps to cover 2 rolls off the clock. We called it theft. He left with a box, firm, not humiliating. The stock dipped. The board watched. Elon's email, hold course. Publish updates. Put people first. 2 days later, a cheap paper letter. No cameras in rooms. Laughing no longer a fine. A bus added. Keep going. Priya pinned it. Proof of breath. Disclosure time. A public update, dates, masked names, actions, a promise to publish again in 30 days. We added kept promises, external, at the top, of commitments we made to workers, how many kept on time in full without making anyone beg. Not perfect. Moving right. Whistleblower spoke. Prosecutor called. Slow but moving. A line worker brought his daughter and our brief. You do what you say? We try. When we fail, we say it and try again. I can work with try, he said, handing me a blue star sticker. Legal wrote exit with dignity for vendor workers harmed by our decisions. Finance ring-fenced an emergency line for fixes that keep people whole. Security wrote a one-pager. Do not call the police when help looks like a sandwich, not a siren. A thick envelope from DACA. Worker signatures. Thank you for not using our pain as a press release. A blue thread bracelet. I wore it. It tangled. Kept it on. At the board, a director asked the money question. Richard showed retention, rework, recall, all improved. Regulatory risk down. He didn't plead. He presented. Hard to argue with a floor that keeps refusing to crack. At the bench, Elon steepled his hands. Justice feels like a slow elevator. Keep pushing the button, I said. He smiled. I don't walk away. Dow's photo arrived. A night market lit by strings. A table labeled "Ask me how to fill this." Caption: The soup helped. Keep your promises. Count them. Publish them. Repeat. Elon turned the ring so freedom faced the sky. Freedom isn't the absence of consequence, he said. It's the presence of choice. And choosing the slow thing that holds, I said. We got up. Back to work. The next part would be softer. A door, a room, a life you can keep. Happiness didn't explode. It arrived like a well-oiled hinge. Doors stopped sticking. Carts rolled. Calendars remembered humans. On certain mornings, the city forgave itself. A year later, 6 clinics hummed. Harper Open Care in letters like hands. Olive and Star kept quiet routes. Dawn blocks, midnight markets. Motels pretending to be addresses. At the desk. What time does your day need you back? Dignity often answers what you should have asked first. Inside Northbridge, kept promises moved above revenue. Analysts laughed. Then ran correlations and stopped. We added thank you rounds on Thursdays, 3-sentence cards. We created meeting nutrition labels, especially who can leave after 10 minutes without penalty. The tower exhaled. Elon's signature shrank as his presence grew. He took the stairs. Showed up at Site 2. Restacked children's books. Drank terrible coffee. Still flew at 30,000 feet. Landed more often. My mother's name lived on a bench. For those who listen before they judge. People sat and became gentle. The listening lab became a room, 2 chairs, 1 hour. Out of it. Quiet hour in waiting rooms. On-shift snack credits. Clear path floor decals. Not flashy, just fair. At night I walked to the bench. Elon sometimes joined with the old wallet. His sister's photo tucked behind my mother's receipt. He turned the ring so freedom faced up. Freedom isn't exit, he said. It's choosing your bonds on purpose. And staying, I said. When staying is braver. Special projects, born scrappy, anchored the company. We hired a refugee logistics genius, a librarian who unlocked case law, a pastry chef who ran crisis like a kitchen. Investors raised eyebrows, results lowered them. We created do-over days, fix a mistake without discipline if you write. What I learned, one change I propose. Mislabels halved. Courage doubled. Shame quieted. Family days, if the hospital calls, you go. No forms that feel like punishment. Time is the benefit. Performance matured. The auditor's circle kept growing. Updates. Simple, dated with receipts. Kept promises, external, behaved like steel. Held when markets twitched. At second shift, night school bloomed. A dishwasher taught circuits. A nanny launched a daycare around parents' real lives. A line cook did calculus and tutored teens who saw futures in their own language. On the wall, we believe there is no such thing as unskilled. We chose simple endings. Sunday pancakes, a stubborn plant. Music low while we cooked and argued commas. We apologized faster. Said, you're right. You're safe. I'm here like vitamins. People still tried to shrink our story, poor girl billionaire. But I didn't save him. I returned a wallet and kept returning myself. He didn't rescue me. He made space and held it. We saved our capacity to keep our word without performance. Richardson cost of kept promises, totals aligned. Recommend expansion. Finance learned Mercy's math. We opened a 7th clinic by winter. Retired vanity metrics. Funded after-hours childcare. When journalists asked for the secret, Elon said the true thing. Attention is the rarest resource. Spend it where it multiplies. Then he showed up and listened. At year's end, we gathered in a room that smelled like coffee. Priya taped the last chart. Mara set out cups with names. Amara tucked a star pin, for bravery, into a child's sleeve. I kept it simple. We kept promises. When we failed, we said it and tried again. That's the work. That's the joy. Applause gathered like neighbors like morning. Later at the bench, the river argued with the light. Elon twirled the ring, freedom catching sun, and set the old wallet by my mother's plaque. We didn't fill the silence. The quiet belonged to someone we love. If your night presses the window, hear me. Happiness isn't at the end. It's in the middle, the slow repair, the patient audit, the room that learns its weather, the word you keep. My name is Lena Harper. I was homeless once. Now I keep doors. I open them. I teach hinges. If you ever find a wallet in the rain, you will know what to do. Return it. Then keep returning yourself to the work that holds. Because wealth is real when shared. Because love is strong when free. Because justice becomes joy when quiet parts of a city hear it and say, yes, that, more of that. We are not finished yet. And that is the happiest truth I know.